talent moving around.
I think it's going to be absolute bananas.
I would love to come back.
I would love to stay in Pittsburgh.
There are some skill position players which you don't ordinarily see. Let the bidding begin.
Bill Belichick, he's got something up his sleeve, fellas. Good morning. Welcome into First Take. He's Stephen A. Smith. That's Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karam Rose. Gentlemen, let's do this. Ready? Bill Belichick opening up his wallet. This is uncharacteristic of him, like never before, going all in on free agency. I'm with it, trying to fill the holes after a 7-9 season between reported contract agreements with Tennessee Titans, tight end Jonnu Smith, Baltimore Ravens outside linebacker Matthew Judon, Jalen Mills, Nelson Aguilar, more and more. You can see the list right up there on your screen. Stephen A., did Belichick put the NFL on notice with these free agency moves just out of nowhere?
He's coming after Tom Brady. Let's just call it what it is. He's coming after Tom Brady. That's what the hell's going on here. I mean, it's one thing to lose Tom Brady and to not be what you are. It's another thing to watch him go someplace else in his first year there. He wins the Super Bowl, not just because he's still a star quarterback, but also he played the role of GM, basically making decisions as to who should be on the team and who should be added to the team. The Antonio Browns of the world, the Rob Gronkowskis of the world, and others. So because of that, that's where if you're Bill Belichick, you've got people looking at you, looking at your legacy and what have you. And he's a highly, highly competitive individual, which anybody associated with him has attested to. And so when we take that into consideration, along with the fact that sometime during last season, he made it very, very clear to everybody else over the previous 5 years we had gone all in. We had made the necessary sacrifices. So as a result, last offseason, we didn't necessarily have that cap room, Max. Guess what? This is who we are. This is what we have. And then you take into account 8 different dudes who elect not to show up and play because of COVID-19. That's the dilemma he found himself in. In this particular instance, guys like Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower, they're scheduled to come back along with the people that he's added. They're expected to be significantly better, have more talent. And as a result, you will be reminded of the greatness of Bill Belichick. That seems to be the mission that he is on. It is clear. And I don't think that, you don't throw any shade on Bill Belichick, the coach. There is nothing to question about him as the coach. He is the greatest of all time. His accomplishment speaks for itself. There is no doubt about it. But there were a lot of questions, legitimate questions, about Bill Belichick, the GM, and Tom Brady outmaneuvered him in that regard as well. So it has you looking at Bill Belichick and saying, you should not have only lost Tom Brady, the quarterback. You should not have lost Tom Brady, the mind, somebody that could have contributed in terms of his thinking as to what the roster in New England should have contained. And all of those things that come into play now when we look at Bill Belichick, and for the first time in a very, very long time, there are questions about him in that regard. And in that regard, he had to answer it. And I think that he made steps towards doing that yesterday.
I don't think Bill Belichick sends messages. I think he tries to improve his football team, period. Now, he's been unable to do so through the draft recently on the offensive side of the ball. Aguilar at those numbers, I don't know. All right, okay, maybe he's seeing something I'm not. I think Bourne was a good pick, nice, versatile receiver for not that much money. Jonnu Smith, same thing. Maybe he overpaid a little bit there, but Smith is entering his prime and has real offensive upside. And Judon is the typical Bill Belichick kind of linebacker that he likes. Really versatile, and he can get pressure. Look, he has not been able to improve through the draft. Maybe he's taking a shot at free agency. He had a lot of cap room. And as Warren Sharp Analytics, Stephen A., I shout him out, tweeted yesterday when this was going down. In the first 10 years, or in the last 10 years of free agency, Belichick spent something like $300-something million. In the first 10 minutes or something like that of free agency this year, he spent half that. Spent like $150 million almost half of what he'd spent in a decade on free agents. So he knew he had to upgrade the roster. And obviously, he is now competing with a very high bar set by Tom Brady, who went out and won the freaking Super Bowl. Yes, the team was loaded, but there were a lot of loaded teams. Won the Super Bowl year one. I don't think this is sending a message to the league. I think Belichick is analyzing what he needs, and he's putting, as he tries to do every year, the best, most competitive team he can on the field.
Listen, Max, let me tip you off about something. So you sit in this chair, you're fortunate to meet a lot of great people. And I had the pleasure and what I consider the honor of asking, being summoned down. I shouldn't say summoned, but I was requested to come down and speak to Alabama's football team.
I recall.
And not once, but twice, actually.
Did you just ride on someone's plane or something like that?
Yeah. But that's a different subject for another day. The private jet is never a bad thing. But here's the deal. When you go down to speak to Alabama, like Charles Barkley did, like the late, great Kobe Bryant has done, and others, you usually get a one-on-one with Nick Saban. You're just sitting in there. And it was one of the great, great honors that I've had in my career because I happen to consider him the greatest college coach of all time, and I love the way he handles his business. I just think he's elite in every manner. And when you listen to these guys talk, they'll never tell you, Max, they're paying attention to this guy or that guy, whatever. But what they talk about is constantly climbing. You don't stand still. You don't descend. You go up, and you go up until you can't go up anymore. Then even when you reach the mountaintop, it's a new year. You start all over and all over and all over again. Well, Max, that speaks to competition. You're paying attention to the competition. To think that for 1 second that Bill Belichick doesn't have the competition in mind is nonsense. Of course he has it in mind. And then when you take into account the fact that the person at the mountaintop is a guy that he coached for the previous 20 years, that went to 9 Super Bowls, that won 6, that is widely considered the GOAT, in large part because of all the things that Bill Belichick put around him. The Ty Laws and Rodney Harrisons and others will all tell you nothing but mad respect and love for Tom Brady and his greatness, but there are multiple components that come to a championship team. And excuse me, if it wasn't for what we did on the defensive side of the ball some of those years, Tom Brady wouldn't have as many Super Bowls as he has. And they would be absolutely right. I'm not saying that Rodney Harrison never said that, but I know Ty Law did publicly. I'm just bringing up that to say if you're Belichick, who was a defensive coordinator and a 2-time champion as a defensive coordinator in New York with the Giants, who helped Bill Parcells guide the New York Jets to AFC championship games. This man's resume is nothing short of impeccable. So his mindset of thinking, no, I don't need to find another quarterback that is Tom Brady because I recognize how special he is. But if I have that mentality that those players have, which he did because he's the one that shaped and formulated it, his mentality is there's multiple ways to skin a cat. I can win without having a Tom Brady or Tom Brady caliber. You got to pay attention to that.
Let me get in here, guys. Guys, really quick, because it's another way that Bill Belichick used to love to win when the late Aaron Hernandez went on the squad, and he had all those 2 tight end sets. Well, listen to this. I mentioned they got Jonnu Smith. New England striking again. The Patriots are signing former Chargers tight end Hunter Henry to a 3-year, $37.5 million deal, including $25 million guaranteed. That per source. Adam Schefter just putting out that tweet. Max?
They got very little production from their tight ends recently, like very little. And as you said, he liked those 2 tight end sets and he liked using them. And now he has 2. That's the first. Hunter Henry is the first splashy. Well, I guess Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, those are the 2 areas where you may have overpaid a little bit for a name brand guy, but productive guys. My point about Belichick not sending a message is I didn't see splashy signings. I saw good football signings. I saw, versatile linebacker. Underrated, versatile receiver.
Everybody's versatile.
Those guys, that's right.
Everybody's
They're Belichick type. Like he didn't make a run for Dak Prescott or to be the quarterback or try to trade for Odell Beckham Jr., something that would have everyone buzzing. It's piece after piece after piece that seems to fit. That's what I mean by not sending a message. He's looking to improve his team. Of course, competition matters. Stephen A., before we even get to Tom Brady and the Bucs, who are in the other conference, he's got to worry about Buffalo and Miami. Like the AFC East, for so many years, you had Tom Brady and no other quarterback in the division. So basically, Bill Belichick was hosting a playoff game. He'd had a bye, and then he'd host a playoff game. One playoff home win, You're in the AFC Championship game. Different story now. You got Josh Allen. You have Tua, or maybe Deshaun Watson. Let's see what happens. That's the competition. It's in the division.
But again, we ultimately come back to Bill Belichick, the GM, because again, we know he knows what he's doing as a coach. The issue was, which explains why he was so understanding and appeared to be so kind to Cam Newton. You knew what you were asking him to work with last season. You knew that he was bereft of weapons, and you didn't put him in a good position to succeed. And yet Cam Newton never complained. He looked at himself. He was very accountable, very adult and mature about the situation. And Bill Belichick had to appreciate that, which explains why Cam Newton comes back, despite throwing 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He comes back and gets damn near $5-6 million raise, for crying out loud. This is what the situation is in New England with Cam Newton right now and Bill Belichick. But when we look at Bill Belichick, again, it's Bill Belichick having an opportunity to improve this team as a GM, and it appears he has went out and done that because he's got a whole bunch of versatile players, which is going to give him the maneuverability to do some things that we saw him do in the past. It's going to be very, very interesting. And Buffalo and Miami at the moment have something to worry about because remember, Josh Allen, as gifted as he is, still relatively young. And Tua obviously is very young. And young quarterbacks, we know what Bill Belichick does to them when
We're going to find out about Cam, too. Cam has some weapons now. He has some weapons now.
But really filling out that roster, and he was not afraid to spend money. By the way, gentlemen, hopefully I'll get my vaccine soon. I might have to make the 3-hour drive because do you know that the Bucs are playing in New England this season? So they're going to have a regular season game that's must-see. Might have to make that 3-hour drive up to Foxborough.
You're not going to do it. It's cold. It's cold. You're not going to do it.
Whatever.
Everyone's not you.
You're going to call Robert Kraft, and I'll be in the box.
I don't believe it.
The defending Super Bowl champs buffering their defense. The Buccaneers bring back Shaquille Barrett on a 4-year deal worth up to $72 million. Agent Drew Rosenhaus told our Adam Schefter the Bucs also re-signed Rob Gronkowski to a 1-year deal. No, Stephen A., I really do want to do that. But after this winter, I was like, I don't know if I can do these New England winters again.
After the
Side
winter.
note. So,
That's right.
no, I'm serious. I'm serious. You're 2-week LA. I might be trying to get on that. Okay, Max, will Brady's offense or Barrett's defense determine a Bucs repeat?
Ready for this? Tom Brady's offense will determine it. If they're both excellent, Bucs are loaded, both sides of the ball. That's right, Tom Brady's offense. Why have I just given it up for Tom Brady? Well, he won the Super Bowl. No, not necessarily. Because you can game manage your way to a Super Bowl if you have absurd weapons on offense and a great defense and a running game, and you get a little lucky. That's not what I saw from Brady. I saw a great quarterback still. I just give it up. I think that I was wrong and others were right when they said at the end of his tenure in New England, he simply didn't have the weapons. Seemed to me he couldn't do it anymore. Shorter and shorter passes, right? Like fewer yards per attempt. But not only that, he was missing receivers every which way. Long, short, left, right. Like it didn't matter. I thought, no, the guy's getting old. Nope. He showed that was not the case. And you saw New England without him. Same thing, no offense. Nope. It's one thing to have an embarrassment of riches. It's another thing to use them competently. And it's another thing still to use them at a very high level, which is what Brady did. I give it up. That's why he threw 40 touchdowns last year. That's why the Bucs had the 3rd highest scoring offense last year. And he had to do it in a COVID year, without a preseason, with a coach who seemed to have the opposite offensive philosophy that he had. Now, you add to that the fact that AB is going to have a whole season. You understand how good Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are, who are still there? If AB is healthy and is acclimated, he's by far the best offensive weapon they have on the team. And I haven't mentioned even Gronk or O.J. Howard, who wasn't available because of injury at the end of the year, or Brady. Like, they have so many absurd weapons on offense. And given the level Tom Brady's still playing at, given what the offense did last year, if you make me choose between the offense and the defense, good as the defense is, it's the offense.
Well, it's beautiful to hear you try to gloss over how wrong you've been over the last 4 years.
I gloss. I stated it.
I'm just saying, you've been wrong, and then so now you want to talk about how right you are because remember, you're the one that went on national television and said you're the foremost expert on Tom Brady because you've been wrong the previous 4 years. So because of that, yes, you did. So because you have been wrong for 4 years, you would know better than anybody. I mean, the logic, it boggles the mind. Spock Kellerman at it again. But here's the reality. It's about Tampa Bay's defense, and I'll tell you why. because of the residual impact of what transpired in the Super Bowl shows you what a stout defense can do if you can get to the passer, if you can disrupt. Think about this for a second. Think about all the greatness, all the laudables you threw in the direction of Patrick Mahomes. If you can make him look like that, primarily because, number one, he had a foot injury, and number two, a lot of his dudes didn't show up. I mean, we all know that he wasn't getting any kind of protection whatsoever.
I make 2-1 and 1-2 there. I think it's the offensive line.
I'm just saying, it's offensive line, no question about it. I don't disagree with you with that, but I'm saying, because you apply pressure on him, and that's really what you did to Kansas City. That's how you exposed him. I got news for you. We don't know what Tampa Bay would have been like had the game been tight. See, this is the thing that everybody misses. We look at the final score. We look at the culmination of things, and we say that's what it was. But excuse me, moments can lead to you just disintegrating before our very eyes. You can become a bit demoralized. Fatigue can kick in. Mental fatigue can kick in. All of these things can take place. And what does that to you better than a stout defense? And so when I look at Barrett, even though I hope they get Ndamukong Suh back, I hope they don't let him get away in free agency. And I don't know if we know for sure that they're going to keep Antonio Brown. I know Evans, Godwin, Scotty Miller and those boys. But I'm just saying, if you're Antonio Brown because you're a Super Bowl champion, there might be better options for you monetarily speaking. Even though if he was smart, he would stay with them. In the end, here's the reality. That defense, Devin White and the crew, being as ferocious as they were, not allowing Kansas City to come in their house and handle their business the way that they are customarily do, holding them without a touchdown. I'm just looking at it from that standpoint. You got that proverbial monkey off your back. Tom Brady's got his championship. You've got your championship, your first since 2003. All of these things taken into consideration, and the expectations haven't been met. I think the defense is going to come back even more ferocious. They were number one against the rush, but they were like 21st against the pass, 8th overall as a result. I think this year they're going to be even better against the pass. They're going to get to the passer even better, and they're going to wreak havoc.
They have an excellent defense, but look,
I think that's going to be the key.
To me, the Super Bowl more than anything was not, and the Bucs played excellent defense. They had an excellent offense. Mm-hmm. More than anything, Mahomes lost both starting tackles. Yes. Both starting tackles against that defense. And Todd Bowles knew I can get pressure, which he did on almost every snap, without sending extra guys. So then everyone's covered. To me, that if Mahomes has both starting tackles, I agree with you. Maybe they win. I don't know. But my point is, Brady's offense is really what makes it special. When you look at the defense is excellent, but the offense with that quarterback, and by the way, the offensive line did a really good job and came together as the season went on. Stephen A., assuming they have AB. Talk about the best, deepest receiving core of all time. Is it this Bucs receiving core? Tell me another one with AB, Mike Evans, Godwin, and all those tight ends. I don't think I can think of one where I would say AB's one of the best ever. Mike Evans, a perennial Pro Bowl caliber player. Godwin is still ascending, right? Scotty Miller is actually the outsider. He's the burner. I mean, and then you have all those tight ends. And then with Brady still playing like this, tell me.
We know they got weapons. I'm just saying the defense is going to decide whether they win it or not the offense. We know what to do.
You got to play some defense. I'm saying you got to peg one or the other. You're taking the defense?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll have more on these two teams later, and also you mentioned the Chiefs, so we'll talk about their moves and get into their free agency as well. Fellas, but a lot of NBA I want to discuss too. The up-and-coming Knicks, were they robbed by the super team crosstown rival Nets? Wait till you hear which one of these two angry New Yorkers is all hot and bothered this morning. Les. Speaking of the Knicks, the one and only Patrick Ewing joins us live as he gets his Georgetown Hoyas ready for the big dance. We'll ask versus New York last night. The Nets getting the best of the Knicks in Brooklyn, but the win wasn't without some controversy. Julius Randle called for a travel, although it appeared Kyrie Irving stripped him of the ball. Randle not happy with the call, was held back by teammates, and he voiced his frustration. Max Kellerman, were the Knicks robbed by a bad call?
They did. The Knicks got robbed last night. And don't tell me about how many plays there are in a basketball game and you have chances. I get all that. But let's be realistic with what we're dealing with. See those dudes on the Knicks like Julius Randle? They're there as consolation prizes because the Knicks couldn't get the Nets guys to take their money. That's why they have Julius Randle. They have the leftovers, the Knicks, and are trying to make do. The Knicks have no margin for error, which is what Thibodeau said after the game. Mind you, not that I have any feelings for the Knicks anymore, as you know. No feelings for the Knicks. I'm just saying, the reality is, without a margin for error, you cannot afford, especially playing that Brooklyn offense, to have calls go against you. Now, what really bothers me, guys, and the reason I say robbed is this. The refs were challenged on a bad call, right before that play where they trapped, because, by the way, the Knicks, they're trapping full court? What is this, 1986, and Rick Pitino is the coach? They're trapping in the NBA, and it's kind of working? Boy, that's a hustling defense right there. I got to give it to them. They're playing with passion. They're connected, the whole thing. So they challenged the call because it was a turnover, not a foul when they trapped Joe Harris. And the refs, to their credit, reviewed it and said, yep, we got it wrong, and overturned the call. So let me ask you something. Why don't you review the call when Julius Randle, obviously that was a bad whistle. Yes, Kyrie got his hand on it. Yup, he stripped him. Nope, it was not up and down. It was not a travel. So, by the way, review the call and tell me that I'm wrong about that. But to not review it right after a review, overturn the call, why wouldn't you do that? Are you embarrassed by the fact that the first review worked? Is it hubris on the part of the refs? Does the league not want a game where you have to scrap for every point? It's not as aesthetically pleasing. It's just so messed up that a team that's as scrappy as this Knicks team is, and you know me, I'm not a Knicks fan anymore. But at any rate, against a team as talented, you see, Stephen A., the show that Kyrie put on again, as this Nets team scraps and scrapes and claws all the way there, and it's going to be a game, and maybe Randall sends it to overtime, and maybe the Knicks win. But to be denied that based on not just a bad whistle, but the refusal to review the play is a robbery. Knicks got robbed.
There's so much to teach you about the game of basketball. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I'm going to try to just explain this to you, okay? Julius Randle has a minimal amount of time. He goes up to attempt a three-point shot. Kyrie Irving gets his hand on the ball. You're supposed to drop the ball before your feet comes down on the ground. Otherwise, it's a travel. Period. He held on to the ball and came down with both feet before he let the ball go. That is clearly in the rule book. It is a travel, and that is that. But having said that, let me be very, very clear as a diehard Knicks fan who isn't a turncoat, a trader, who should have his New York tag stripped, okay? Get out of town. I told you to get out of town. I told you to get out of town, okay? You're a traitor. But that's all right, because we don't need you. We don't need people like you, Max Kellerman. Knicks fans, we deal here. Let me say, you're pathetic. Pathetic. But here's the deal. I was very, very happy last night, despite the fact that they lost the game. There were so many elements in this game that made me. Hold on, where's my tissue? I'm getting emotional right now. I mean, it was so special. First of all, Max, they were down 18. I got it. Thank you so much, but I got my one. But I need both because it's an emotional moment for me right now. Don't interrupt me right here. My Knicks. First of all, Max, they were down 18, but they scratched and they called the number one defense in the NBA. Number one is the New York Knicks. Now, I understand they're only scoring 105.3 points a game, okay? That ranks like 28th. But they're surrendering the exact same amount of points, which is number one. This defense is scrappy. I saw Spike Lee there. It reminded me of the days when the Knicks were relevant and Spike Lee was there cheering them on. Come on, let's go. It was a beautiful thing to see. I saw my man Worldwide West, William Wesley, behind the Knicks bench going bananas when a foul was called against Frank Ntilikina. He didn't like that. He was very, very upset about that. We know Thibodeau is feisty, okay? And then to see Julius Randle, although he did travel, and I believe it was the right call for him to have attitude, for him to be restrained, for him to have to be held back. Even Wes and the rest of his crew was trying to hold him back. Why, Max? Why? Because they had a chance. They're fighting. They're scrapping. And I'm going to tell you something right now, Max Kellerman. I'm going to tell you something right now because this is very, very important to say. I don't believe there's any way. Remember, I picked Brooklyn to win the chip. All right, I'm on the record. I picked Brooklyn to win the chip because I don't think Anthony Davis is going to be held 100% for the rest of the year. And I think that's the only chance to stop the Brooklyn Nets from winning it all, okay? Right now, they're the favorites. If the New York Knicks were to meet the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs, do you have any idea how much pressure would be on Brooklyn? They had everything to lose. Could you imagine you chose, this is the Mecca, and instead of choosing the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden, okay, you chose Brooklyn, and you
Smart
go there.
choice.
You go. I'm not sweating it. I think Sean Marks is an exceptional executive. I think Steve Nash is doing a hell of a job. I think Steve Nash and his staff, led by Mike D'Antoni, is doing a hell of a job.
I bet you Dr. J doesn't get hassled by security at Barclays.
That's right. All of that's true. But let me tell you this. If the New York Knicks were to play the Brooklyn Nets, and that became a series, could you imagine the pressure on Brooklyn? Could you imagine if KD and Kyrie, could you, I'm just saying.
That's without KD last night, brother.
I totally understand.
That's with Emmanuel quickly getting taken out with Randall and everybody at the, what's up with substitutions, Tim?
I'm asking you to fantasize. I'm asking you to fantasize for a second.
Yeah.
Can I be allowed to fantasize? If the New York Knicks turn that into a series, and we actually had headlines. Let's say, for example, hypothetically, the series was tied 2-2, and Brooklyn had to worry. I mean, oh my God, you're talking about a nightmare that would never. I mean, could you imagine if KD and Kyrie would have lost to the Knicks in the playoffs? Oh my God.
That's why it's fantasy. You're living in fantasy.
It's only a fantasy because I picked the Brooklyn Nets to win it all.
Let me say something.
Oh my Lord.
I
love what I'm seeing.
Your whole thing about you want to let go of the ball before your feet come down, the other player
it's a rule, man.
touches it. You can't,
it's a rule.
But the point is, they didn't even review it.
It doesn't matter. What's there to review?
Yes, it does.
I saw it. Did you see that? He came down with both feet with his ball in his hand. With the ball in his hand.
Review the play. Just review the play.
Well, why?
The official.
Why? I don't think it's necessary.
Let's watch that play again.
Look at it. He comes down and the ball is in his hands, clearly.
Yeah, after Kyrie
that is a travel.
After Kyrie touched the ball.
Doesn't matter. He's got to come to. He's got to let go of the ball. He's got to let go of the ball.
He did let go of the ball. He caught the ball from Kyrie.
Watch. Thank you. Yeah, that is a travel.
Maybe that might be a travel, but the refs didn't even review it.
Matt.
The refs didn't even review it.
You know, I know my boxing. Yeah. But I would never, ever think that I know more boxing than you. It's time for you to fall back to take the lesson I'm giving you, bro. This is basketball, and I'm telling you, it's a travel.
Upon further review, it did look like his feet
Thank you very much.
First.
It's a travel.
But review it.
Okay? No. You don't need to review that. Waste time.
By the way,
it's a beautiful moment. New York Knicks.
They reviewed the trap.
Look at me. New York Knicks. You're very good. You're very good, you. You're making me proud right now.
Oh, my God.
That feistiness,
that fight.
That's what I'm talking about here. I'm very proud.
It would almost be
I'm very proud of my Knicks right now. I'm very proud.
KD.
Right? Tom Thibodeau.
KD didn't exist. This could actually be something.
Tom Thibodeau.
I know,
Scott
Stephen.
Perry,
You're excited.
Worldwide
you might not even need an LA break.
Proud.
If the Knicks got good, you might be able to spend a whole month in New York with us.
You know
what?
I
love how excited you are.
I will come back.
Right.
I will come back from LA for a playoff series.
It's gonna be a short series.
This is a beautiful moment,
I know.
man.
I know.
Special.
I know. You'd be standing in the tunnel. All right, we gotta go. With yesterday's signing, how come?
Big East Tournament Championship. He did it as a player in the early 80s, and now he wins the Big East Tournament Championship as the head coach, the 8th time in Big East Tournament Championship history. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hoyas are going to the NCAA Tournament. Hoyas win, Hoyas win, Hoyas win, Hoyas win.
All right, our guest right now needs no introduction. He's all fired up about that one. Huge congrats, Big East champs, Patrick Ewing. Thank you so much for being with us. And you just heard the announcer. It's so cool to win it as a player, now win it as a coach. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, and can't wait to see you guys fighting in the dance. But Patrick, I got to start with this. So we had a debate here, multiple debates, about the treatment of you and others at MSG. Obviously, you are a Knicks legend icon. We know what type of NBA player that you were.
It's your building,
Patrick.
Patrick.
Did you hear any reaction? Right. Patrick, did you receive any reaction after you expressed your frustration from James Dolan or upper management on the Knicks?
First of all, thank you guys for having me on. It's great to be on. I watch this show almost every day. You know what happened at MSG. It is what it is. It happened. It's over with. Myself and Mr. Dolan, we had a conversation. We talked. You know, it's behind me now. all I'm doing right now is just looking forward to the future. And the future is right now is Colorado. We did a great job in the Big East tournament to put ourselves in this position. And I'm just looking forward to my guys continue the path, continue taking steps, and hopefully at the end of the day, we'll be champions again.
Well, I'm glad it ended in a talk and not an arrest like it did with Charles Oakley for some reason. Charles Oakley! All right. Next thing, Derek Jeter is going to be escorted from Yankee Stadium.
One of my best teammates. What happened to him is sad, But like I said, I'm just looking forward to this challenge that we have, and that's it.
Good. Because I want to move on, Patrick. I want to move on. Hoya paranoia. I want to talk about Georgetown for a second here. Now, I got to admit, I didn't expect this, Patrick. Preseason, they were saying y'all were going to come in last in the Big East. Obviously, y'all struggled somewhat during the regular season, but we understand that COVID-19 and everything else, this season has been crazy. How the hell did y'all do this? How did you end up winning the Big East tournament? What happened during the tournament that wasn't happening during the regular season?
Well, just like you said, once the ratings came out, the rankings came out, I made a big post of it and put it in the gym. And I talked about it every day after every practice. This is where everyone has you, ranked. They believe that we are the last team in the Big East. And, I told them we need to have a chip on our shoulder. We need to use it as motivation. And I think that having nine new guys on your team, it takes time to gel. Then the pause happened. And I think that gave us an opportunity to refocus and exhale. And I think that helped us significantly. Also, we inserted Chudy Boz into the start lineup. He gives us a toughness, a rebounder, a guy who can score at the three-point line, get fouls, and go to the free throw line and knock them in. And I think everything that has happened, Dante Harris, he's had a fantastic freshman year. He's grown significantly from, when he was given the opportunity to be the starter. Javon Blair is having a great run for us. We're playing our best basketball right now. And I think that pause gave us some time to reflect and regroup, and that's the reason why we're doing so well right now.
What do you think, Patrick? You talk about like motivation and how you motivated them and the emotional side of it and individuals and how they stepped up. But in terms of the X's and O's, in terms of the way your team is executing on offense and defense, what was the change where you go from last to first?
Well, I think our defense is something that is definitely improved. We went from when we were losing from, I think we were ranked 170th in defense, and now we're ranked 70th. So, our defense definitely had improved. Our guys are locked in. They're up for the challenge. And I think that we showed it in the Big East tournament. And, that's one of the things when we met yesterday, I was talking to them about. We cannot have slippage in our defense. We were locked in. Everyone who played, all five on the court was locked in. Our bench was locked in. The coaches was locked in. We have to stay that path. We cannot have slipping. And if we continue to play our defense the way we've been playing, and our offense is still stellar, we can beat anyone.
Now, Patrick Ewing, you heard me during the commercial break trying to school Max Kellerman, talking about the greatest show in the history of college basketball was Dwayne Pearl Washington.
Says that.
Boys and girls high school, Syracuse University, back in the day. Hoya paranoia with you, Lou Carnesecca with Chris Mullen and Walter Berry, and those boys at St. John's. Syracuse to Syracuse. I miss those days so much. Notice I didn't bring up Villanova because I don't like the fact that they held the ball for 3 minutes and 10 seconds every possession and beat y'all in the end national championship game. I thought that was fluky. But here's my question to you. When you look at what you just accomplished, how much do you think that's going to do for Big East basketball and specifically the Georgetown program? And how much are you craving a return to the good old days of when the Big East was something different, primarily because of people like you?
You talk about Pearl. Pearl was definitely one of the fiercest competitors that we had to play. He was virtually unstoppable. He would get the ball. We would have our best defenders on him, and none of them could stop him. So it was always a treat to play against Syracuse and him. But yes, this is great for the Big East. You know, with Georgetown brand is one of the strongest brands in the country. Even though we have been down for a little while, you know, our brand and our brand recognition is always been there. It has not slipped. So this is something that is very good for Georgetown and the Hoya Nation and also the Big East.
Patrick, obviously you're trying to not focus on you and focus on the team, but I'm curious for you personally, who had to toil in the NBA as an assistant for so long, in spite of the fact that you were an all-time great, 15 years as an assistant coach, and finally get a head coaching job on the college level to win the Big East tournament as a head coach. What does that mean for you personally?
It's great. You know, yes, I did work 15 years to try to be a head coach in the NBA, and I was not given that opportunity. You know, they have this stigma that big people, I guess, can't think, and the guards are the better. I see guards coming straight from playing and getting opportunities. But all I did was try to continue to work on my craft, learning from all the people that I was working with, the Stan Van Gundy's, the Jeff Van Gundy's, the Steve Clifford, talking to Coach Thompson, you know, daily. He's the one who taught me into coming and try to get the interview to be the head coach here at Georgetown, and here I am. But it was a great opportunity. You know, I'm the first to win it both as a player and as a coach, and you know, I can't separate you know, which one is the best. It was just a great opportunity and a great feeling that all my guys banded together through those the odds, people telling us, doubting us that we're, you know, Seton Hall was just going to blow by us, Creighton was just going to blow by us, and I think that all that fueled the fire, and my guys just stayed locked in and was able to come away with a great win.
I just wanted to make, because I know we got to go, Patrick. I just wanted to take a moment to say I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you on what you were able to accomplish. And I love the fact that you accomplished it, winning the Big East on the 49-year anniversary, the day that the late, great Coach John Thompson, who I love dearly, was hired as head coach at Georgetown University, man. I'm real proud of you. I'm happy for you. Keep doing it, my man.
Thank you.
Keep doing it.
Thank you. And that also made it very special for me when I found out after the game that on that day, that was the 49th anniversary of Coach Thompson being hired. You know, like I said, Coach Thompson he's a special person in my heart. He's blessed me in many different ways, and that was, I guess, him shining that light down on me on his day.
Yeah. I mean, the whole story is just absolutely unbelievable. You as a player now, people thinking you're going to finish last, you win it all, John Thompson's anniversary. I grew up a UConn fan. The Big East tournament is one of my favorite sporting events. It feels like it's back. Patrick, really special. Huge congrats, and thank you so much for the time, and we'll be watching you in the tournament.
Handle your business in the tournament.
Yes,
in the tournament now.
Thank you.
Handle it.
Handle paranoia. Let's go.
All your sack stuff.
All right, with yesterday's signing, how confident are you that the Chiefs have built a dynasty? NFL free agency is up and running, and the Chiefs began making moves to repair where they fell short last year's Super Bowl, starting with signing free agent offensive lineman Joe Thuney to a 5-year, $80 million deal. Stephen A. Smith, with yesterday's signing, how confident are you that the Chiefs have officially built a dynasty? And when I say dynasty, I mean like the Patriots dynasty.
What damn dynasty? What dynasty? I'm sorry.
Come on.
Who's the reigning defending Super Bowl champion? Who that?
That's a no.
Who that? That would happen to be the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, the Bucs. The Bucs.
Now, if you're the New England Patriots,
the Bucs, you meant.
I'm sorry. What
you said the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh Lord,
it's called a Freudian slip.
I'm sorry. The New England. I'm sorry. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're the champions. I'm sorry. Is it the Kansas City Chiefs that won 6 Super Bowls? Is it the Kansas City Chiefs that had multiple Super Bowls on their resume? Last time I checked, when they won the Super Bowl last year, it was after a 50-year drought. Hank Stram was the coach, and I was 3 years old. What damn dynasty? What's wrong with you people? What is wrong with people out there? Look, they're a very good team. Travis Kelce, my brother from another mother, his decision making is so impeccable. This dude right here shows up in the Super Bowl, got 10 catches for 133 yards, and that wasn't even his greatest game because guess what? There was a couple of passes that he had dropped. In the end, when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they're formidable. Patrick Mahomes is a stud. We get all of that. They got weapons all over the place. But they didn't lose the Super Bowl. They got beat up. They got beat down. They got embarrassed. They got punked. Now, we can sit up there and call it any way we want to, but that's what happened. I love Andy Reid. But guess what? They got out-coached, too. We look Eric Bieniemy. Listen, if you couldn't get a job before as the head coach, what you going to get now? I'm sorry, they're going to look at Todd Bowles before they look at Eric Bieniemy now. And that's what they're going to do. Okay? So let's stop with the dynasty. Look, Kansas City needs to come back, win a couple of more Super Bowls, and then we can talk about a dynasty. Dynasty? Did we ask a question about Seattle and dynasty? They went to back-to-back Super Bowls. They lost to New England. They should have won that game if Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell didn't decide to get Russell Wilson to throw the football at the half-yard line and instead had elected to give it to beast mode. That's happened. Excuse me. The only team worthy of talking about in terms of a dynasty is the New England Patriots. If the New England Patriots were to go back and win the Super Bowl next year, hypothetically, that's a dynasty. Because even without Brady, they still finding a way to win. Kansas City? No. You got one ring. You got one chip. What? That's it.
Well, you're being very emotional, Captain.
I mean, it's necessary.
Very emotional.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Look, let's look at this logically. You call me Spock Kellerman. Let's look at it logically. The Patriots are a dynasty, you say, and they did win 2 Super Bowls in Brady's first 3 seasons. That is true. They didn't make the playoffs in one of those seasons. Is that so much better than Mahomes, who went to 3 straight AFC championship games in his first 3 seasons? Came a pre-snap penalty away from going to 3 straight Super Bowls in his first 3 seasons? Has already won a Super Bowl? And last year, you talk about they got punked. Stephen A. They were missing both their starting tackles, who have since been cut, by the way. Eric Fisher, former #1 overall pick. And Mitch Schwartz, a perennial Pro Bowl player, an all-pro level player. These are 2 excellent starting tackles. And without their starting tackles and 3 offensive linemen altogether, Mahomes was pressured on over half the snaps. And they didn't have to send extra guys. So because they didn't have to blitz, everyone was covered. That's why they lost the Super Bowl. I'm telling you right now, even though that Chiefs defense wasn't great, if Mahomes had protection, I think the Chiefs would have won that game. How do you like that? No matter how the game actually turned out without his starting tackles. So let's start there. 3 seasons, 3 AFC championship games away that they played in, a play away from 3 straight Super Bowls they played in, and a Super Bowl win. Now let's go forward with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Tom Brady then won a 3rd Super Bowl in his 4th season. Let's see what Patrick Mahomes does, because that's what we're up to. But so far, if he continues at this rate, would this be a dynasty? Yes, it would. If you go to the AFC Championship game every year, and 2 out of those 3 years you go to the Super Bowl and you win a Super Bowl every 3 years, you do that for 10 or 15 years, that is absolutely not only a dynasty, but one of the greatest dynasties in the history of American team sports.
If it happened!
In the NFL.
If it happened!
So what we're asking...
Did it happen yet?
What we're asking is...
Did it happen yet?
So far, this is a 3 AFC championship games, 2 Super Bowls, and a Super Bowl win. That's the beginnings of a dynasty.
No, it's not. You got to win. You got to win more than one.
That's why we're asking. Because Patrick Mahomes signed a team-friendly deal to keep the team together.
Have a dynasty. Have they built a dynasty? We don't know that yet.
Between 2004 and 2014, the Patriots didn't win any Super Bowls. Was that still a dynasty?
Between 2000 what?
4 and 14.
Excuse me. I didn't feel that way until they started winning the Super Bowl again. Certainly when in 2012, in 2013, I didn't consider them a dynasty. You got to come back and win.
Yes, eventually you have to win another one. That's what we're asking.
Hold on. You're the same person that questioned that about Golden State. They went to 5 straight finals. They won 3 chips in the 5 years, and you wouldn't give them dynasty tag.
No, that's not true.
What is not true?
That is not true.
I'm making that up. Molly, I'm making that up.
I think the Warriors can win another championship.
That's not what I'm asking.
And maybe it can connect to the first
That's not what I said. What I said was when they went to 5 straight NBA finals.
Oh, I said they were a dynasty.
But they won 3.
I said they were a dynasty.
You were pointing out my LeBron James and how they were not worthy of a couple of.
No.
Yeah. That's why you're smiling. That's why you're smiling right now.
Because you remember part of it.
No, excuse me. That's why you're smiling, because you know that you were going like this. Hey, they shouldn't have won that. I mean,
let me tell you what this is called.
LeBron James had that, they would have won. That's what you said.
This is it. This is called selective perception.
Okay.
You are perceiving what I say selectively to meet your argument. Yes. Selective perception. Yes.
Okay.
Selective perception. What I said was, had LeBron's crew not been hurt, the Warriors wouldn't have won.
Okay.
Then once they got KD, they destroyed everybody. But NFL and NBA are two different things. In the NFL, you can't dominate the way teams do in the NBA normally, right? The Steelers won 4 out of 6. Like, it almost never happens. So, what is a dynasty in the NFL? If you're in the championship game all the time, and you are in the Super Bowl a lot of the time, and you win multiple Super Bowls, that's a dynasty.
All right,
this question's asking for our prediction about the future, basically.
Max mediocre. That's not my
Mediocre?
That's not my definition of dynasty. You got to win. You got to win the chip.
Let's all calm
saying they're
down.
going to.
Let's all take a moment and just pause, go to your separate corners, and think about what you've done. Bill Belichick, the big spender in free agency, completely out of character. What message is the best coach in football sending to the rest of the NFL? Let's get it, Bill. And fans, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua should be the biggest matchup in all of combat sports, right? Mr. Boxing himself, Max Kellerman, and Stephen A. Answer that. Huge news out of the boxing world. It took months of negotiations between promoters and rival champions, but finally we got a contract signed, y'all, for a 2-fight deal between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua to unify the heavyweight titles. Let's go. Stephen A. Smith. Should Fury Joshua be the biggest matchup in all of combat sports?
Hell to the no. Hell to the no. Absolutely not. I like the fight. It's a big fight. I appreciate it because I think Anthony Joshua can box and punch, and we all know Fury is the best boxer in the heavyweight division. I don't think there's any debate in that. He's the best boxer in the heavyweight division, but I question his punching power. Yeah, you can beat up people when you're 40 pounds heavier than them. That wouldn't be the case with Anthony Joshua, even though I question his chin, but we shall see. The fight that everybody should want is Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence.
Preach.
Period. That is the fight everyone should want. That is the #1 desirable fight in all of combat sports. There is no other fight that anyone should want more than Terrence Crawford. And the only reason the momentum for that has died down, Max, is because Errol Spence got in that nasty car crash. So even though he came back to the ring, we needed to see that because he could have died. I mean, my Lord, those streets in Dallas.
Beat the hell out of Danny Garcia, too, when he came back.
I understand it, but what the hell are we doing? What the hell are you doing driving like that?
Yeah.
I mean, he almost killed himself, okay?
Yeah.
And so even though you came back and you won and all of that other stuff, I needed to see that before I could even regain that momentum. Because you never know what kind of damage you could have incurred.
And Crawford can't get the other welterweights to fight him, so it stalled a little bit.
That's right. Promoters controlling the sport, that's the damn problem. They need to get over it. But anybody, let me be very clear. There is no fight out there that anyone should want more than Terrence. And don't get me wrong. I like the idea of Ryan Garcia versus Tank Gervonta Davis.
Oh, yeah.
I like that one. I like that one. I wanted to, especially when Ryan Garcia came on my show, Stephen A's World, said he'd take Gervonta out in 2 rounds, and the only reason it wouldn't be 1 is because he wants to make him suffer just a little bit and entertain it. He don't want to make it that quick. That's what he said.
If Ryan or Tank hit you, you got to go. Either one of those guys, you got to go.
Listen, Tank gonna remember that. So we'll see. Okay, but in the end, despite that, nobody should want anything more in combat sports than Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. We are being robbed. We are being denied of one of the great fights in boxing history. It's a damn shame that we have to wait, and it's a damn shame we don't get to see Terrence Crawford more because this brother is special and we need to see more of him.
And you don't want to wait till that expiration date is passed, like Mayweather-Pacquiao. Mayweather-Pacquiao should have been the best fight in years
earlier.
They waited way too long.
Way too long.
And when you say in boxing history, that's not hyperbole, that's not an exaggeration. Almost never in the history of boxing or combat sports have you had two guys this evenly matched as Spence and Crawford, both in their prime.
That's right.
Both in their best weight division.
And won each other, and the promoters holding them back.
Both with excellent defenses, offenses, speed, punching power, both undefeated, both with belts. It would be a unification fight. Right. It almost never happens. Right. Almost never. In a 50-50 fight.
That's right. I'm glad they got that Max on Boxing tag right there. Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2. Go ahead.
Bob Arum had on the radio show, Max Kellerman show, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
My buddy, yeah.
And I asked him, why isn't that fight being made? Money's not there yet. The way there is because the question is should. You're absolutely right to say should. But in terms of the actual fights that are being made, Fury and Joshua is number one. Maybe
actual fights being made.
If Adesanya would have beaten Blachowicz at light heavy, and then John Jones, and then you have Adesanya, John Jones. I'm saying if Adesanya would have dominated, and that would have been something. Fury and Joshua.
Too small for John Bones Jones.
Probably. Well, now we know for sure. Fury and Joshua at heavyweight, and Fury is 6'9", 260 plus, and Anthony Joshua is 6'6", 250 plus. And these two both have claims to the title. Fury was the lineal champ, beat Vladimir Klitschko, but then he had all kinds of problems out of the ring. He went away. Anthony Joshua knocked Klitschko out and developed a consensus around him. But then Fury came back and beat Deontay Wilder, drew with him in a fight he should have won, and then beat the brakes off him in the rematch. Joshua loses his title against Ruiz, but beats Ruiz in the rematch. The winner of this fight has an undisputed, as in no one in the world can dispute the claim that they are the heavyweight champ. And while Fury will be favored, he's bigger, faster, slicker, you're right to point out, Joshua can box. Joshua's an Olympic super heavyweight gold medalist. Joshua's got a deep resume, and he can punch.
He can punch.
This is the best fight that is being made in combat sports right now.
He can punch, but he lost to Andy Ruiz, who's pretty damn good. He's very good. Now, I don't like how he looked, but he's pretty damn good, okay? And I wish him nothing but the best because he can really, really fight. But let me say this to you. You know, we point this out. I got opposition, and I'm glad that I got them. I'm glad we're touching on this, Max Kellerman, because I actually want to come on Max and Boxing to talk to you about what I'm about to bring up.
Let's do it.
Anytime. I'll come on anytime. You know that. Here's my problem. I don't like the fact that this is a 2-fight deal. I don't believe. Now, if Tyson Fury were to lose to Anthony Joshua, I have no problem with the mandatory rematch. But I believe if Anthony Joshua, I'm saying if Anthony Joshua were to lose, I guess you can look at it that way. I believe that Deontay Wilder deserves the winner. Now, I have a problem, and I've spoken privately to Deontay Wilder about this. I'm not going to reveal all of that. But he and I had a conversation, and I will tell you this. I have no problem with Tyson Fury sitting there and saying, I'm going to fight Joshua because it's a big fight. But I will say this on behalf of Deontay Wilder. When Tyson Fury was down and in the dumps, and nothing was going on in his life, Deontay Wilder gave him that shot.
That's right.
All right? And it came to a draw. And then the second fight, he beat him up pretty bad, 40 pounds heavier, all of this other stuff. I personally think that Deontay Wilder deserves the trilogy, but I have no problem with just suggesting he needs to wait.
He needs to beat someone else.
Right.
No one believes he's going to beat Fury in a rubber match.
But everyone believes one punch could take out Anthony Joshua.
Yep.
And I don't think that Deontay Wilder should have to wait. If Anthony Joshua beats Tyson Fury,
then let's see Joshua and Fury.
And Wilder.
Well, here's the thing.
And Wilder, though. I think that Wilder should get the winner.
Don't look too much at the contracts because, look, Deontay Wilder has to be getting paid to step aside. And when you get step aside money, when you're next with a contract, it ain't $100,000. It's $5-10 million. So Deontay's getting money just for waiting. And believe me, if there's demand for Joshua Wilder, if Joshua were to beat Fury, there's always step aside money you could make.
I understand that. All I'm saying is let's not act like people are treating Wilder like he's He's down and out. The
Deontay's a
man
bad
lost
dude.
one fight. And by the way,
Deontay's one of the best fighters of all time.
we've seen people lose considerably worse. Now, he got mauled, he got beat up because he was fighting a guy 40 pounds heavier.
But that's going to be the case in the third fight, too.
That used the weight to his advantage. All I'm trying to say is that, wait a minute, we've seen people lose worse than Deontay Wilder lost, even though that was a bad loss.
Deontay has to, the way he got beaten by Fury in the rematch, he's going to have to reestablish himself with a big win first.
He don't need to do it. Let me tell you something. If Anthony Joshua wins, Deontay Wilder
That's a different
deserves
story.
that fight.
Joshua Wilder would be a mega fight.
That's right.
Yep.
All I know is this: I miss going to sporting events, and I can't wait to start going in person. We will leave it there. When we come back
real
here,
quick,
guys, Bill
110,000
Belichick.
at Wembley if they do it there.
Yes. Hell, I might be
Cool.
there.
I want to go. Will you buy my ticket, Max? First class. You can afford it. Bill Belichick is the big spender in free agency, completely out of character. What message? It was a big spending Monday for the New England Patriots. Look at all those players. In a very uncharacteristic move by head coach Bill Belichick, the Pats made many notable additions to the roster, spending $18 million in bonuses and guarantees, up from the $51 million they spent, 81. I know that number very well. From the $51 million they spent in the prior 3 seasons combined. On that note, we welcome in Super Bowl champ Ryan Clark, RC. It's been a while. Always good to see you. Always good to talk to you.
Good to see y'all.
Stephen A. Smith, I like the sweater. Did Bill?
Yeah.
Molly's frozen.
We lost Molly.
Okay.
Did Bill Belichick send a message? Is what we asked earlier.
I kind of know what she was going to ask me. Talk about Bill Belichick
Back
and
now,
the money.
I don't know.
Are you back now, Molly? I hear you. Can you hear me?
I think I am. Okay. Yeah, I got you guys.
Go ahead. Ask the question. Go ahead.
All right, let me give you the question again. Did Bill Belichick put the NFL on notice with all these free agency moves? Because this is so uncharacteristic of him to spend like this.
Well, to me, it wasn't even about putting the NFL on notice. It's about saying he's coming for Tom Brady, because the reality is that Tom Brady's the reigning defending Super Bowl champion, and he accomplished that feat just the very first season he departed from you. So I think that when you look at it from that perspective, then it forced us to look at Bill Belichick in a different light. Obviously, as I reported right here on this show, at the time that Tom Brady had elected to leave, I was personally told that they could have kept Tom Brady and Tom Brady would have stayed if Bill Belichick had expressed the desire to want him to. Bill Belichick refused to do that. I reported that right on this show. And so when you look at it from that perspective, understand that Bill Belichick had a lot to do with Tom Brady's willingness to walk out the door. Tom Brady walks out the door and wins, and because he won, not just as a player, but a de facto GM that was making so many decisions for the franchise, now it forces you to look at Bill Belichick and say, excuse me, what did you have this guy working with? Not Jacoby Myers, not Jacoby and Myers,
Best receiver yet.
but Jacoby Myers, okay? N'Keal Harry and others. He was bereft of weapons. And so when you don't have those weapons available to you, and we're looking at the roster, we know that the players are not responsible for assembling the roster. That was Bill Belichick's job. So while we don't question his greatness as a coach, because there's absolutely positively nothing to question as it pertains to his coaching, because we know he knows what he's doing, the flip side to it is that we also paid attention to DK Metcalf, to A.J. Browns of the world, and others that he had an opportunity to draft, but he passed on. And we're like, what's going on here? What are you missing? And you got a guy that was climbing up there in age, had guys like Spot Kellerman talking about Father Time and, and the numbers and the metrics and all of this other stuff. And that's why he was going to fall over a cliff. And then the next thing you know, he's hearing all of this stuff.
Anti-gravity beam.
He's hearing all of this stuff, and people weren't looking at the weapons that he was lacking. And so now that he's won, and you saw that he could win if you have weapons, you're Bill Belichick. Now what you have to show is that you don't need Tom Brady. You can win without him if you surround any quarterback you choose with weapons you should have surrounded Tom Brady with. And so now we're looking at Bill Belichick with a level of skepticism and cynicism for the first time in maybe 20 years. We're looking at him and saying, wait a minute here. You don't get to just ride the coattails of your great coaching ability and Tom Brady when, in fact, you're the GM of the team as well. You have an obligation to assemble a roster. And you didn't do that to the standards that you were supposed to. So he's going out, he's doing that now, and in the roundabout way, if he ends up winning, think about it. He would have won because the defense, Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung is back. What you added to the defense, some of the offensive weapons you have, particularly at the tight end spot, the fact that you kept Cam Newton, you have done what you're supposed to do, reminding everybody of your greatness overall, not just as a coach. And that's why I say stuff, indirectly, he's coming for Tom Brady. Because he's out to prove that, he played a role in the success as well.
RC, I just don't think Belichick's in the business of sending messages. He's just trying to compete. And look, they have cap room because they're not paying a quarterback right now. And I don't see any really splashy signings. I mean, at tight end, I guess, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Now they had so little production from the tight end position since Gronk left. Now they have two guys who should produce if they're healthy. And in Smith's case, there's upside, right? Like he may be even better than he's already produced. And if Hunter Henry can stay healthy, those are two premium tight ends, and you got both of them. That's great. Aguilar, I don't know. It seems like they paid a lot of money for him, but he's better than the guys they have. Same thing with Kendrick Bourne, better than the guys they have and versatile. I really see it on the defense. He spent money at defensive tackle, defensive end. He has in Judon a really versatile and excellent linebacker who can get pressure on the quarterback. These are sort of, except for Aguilar, sort of typical signings by Belichick in the sense that he didn't wait out the market as he normally does. But again, he doesn't normally have this kind of money to spend and this many holes to fill. Consider this. They won 7 games last year with a quarterback coming off a catastrophic injury, having missed a season, having to learn a completely opposite and new offense without practices. Then he gets COVID. They shut down the facilities. They have no offensive pieces. Most of the defense defected before the season because of COVID. They came 2 plays away from winning 9 games. They beat a slew of really quality teams. So Belichick here has taken that same core, same quarterback, and surrounding them with more talent. I don't think he's sending a message. He's just trying to put the most competitive product he can on the field.
I'm going to tell you the message that I received. That Bill Belichick, who's been the GM of the team up until this year, absolutely stunk it up. That he didn't build a roster that could win without a premier quarterback or without the greatest quarterback of all time. He actually didn't even build a roster that could win with him when you look at the way Tom Brady's tenure in New England ended. And so now what he's trying to do is piece together a team that has a complete roster. When you look at these moves, I know you mentioned Aguilar, obviously Kendrick Bourne, you have Judon on the outside, Jalen Mills in the secondary. These aren't splash free agency moves. These are normally moves you see made later on in free agency when some of those top tier guys go away. And so what this says to me is that Bill Belichick is looking at this as I need to rebuild the entire roster. I'm not just one splash free agent away from competing for the AFC East or one splash free agent away from competing for the AFC. And so that's what he's trying to do. But let's be real. And I hate to bring this up. I love Cam Newton. I've been a fan of Cam Newton since he was at Auburn. But even though we're making all these moves, if Cam Newton is the quarterback, this doesn't help you win the AFC. What Bill Belichick is doing when you look at a 3-year deal for Bourne, a 2-year deal for Nelson Aguilar is exactly what Max said. He's trying to compete. There is no message sent. The Buffalo Bills are not shaking in their boots because Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne are now going to be on the outside for New England. What he's trying to do, Bill Belichick, is say, you know what? I need to be more competitive than I was last year. I need to have more of a chance on offense than I had last year. I understand who I have at quarterback. So now let's build with the tight ends inside the numbers to give him easy throws. Defensively, we should be better, and this will give us a chance to compete in the AFC East. But this team isn't a championship team. This team isn't a Super Bowl winning team. We're not going to talk about this team with the Kansas Cities and with the Tampa Bays and with the Green Bay Packers and with the Buffalo Bills. But at least what it is now is a team we feel like that could compete more than it did last year.
RC, here's the thing, though. You said, like, Belichick, I don't think thinks that way. Belichick, you know, the reason he doesn't make those big splashy moves, unless some guy's totally undervalued and you'd be crazy not to get him, like Randy Moss. Wait, they're giving Randy Moss away? Sure, we'll take Randy Moss, right? The reason is because he doesn't see it the way everyone else does. To him, it's just a bunch of details. So when he looks at the details, you know, like Kobe Bryant's details, you can check it out on ESPN+. That's how the greats think. When he looks at the details, he sees, we won 7 games. there was a goal line stand against Seattle and a strip in the red zone against Buffalo. We're 2 plays away from winning 9 games with a ragtag unit, without a defense, without an offense, with a new quarterback. But I like the way the quarterback competed. And when you look at Buffalo and you look at Miami, 2 teams, a team they almost beat and a team they did beat in Miami, I think Belichick's thinking, if we were really kind of a 500-ish team, I would say, RC, they're better than they were last year. I expect Cam to be better. I look at the roster so far. This is before the draft now. So I think Belichick's thinking we could win double digits with this. And then think of how they played KC. No Cam, calls go against them. That was a competitive game for almost 3 quarters, right? Against Kansas City. I wouldn't rule out anything from the Patriots right now. To me, it looks like Belichick is going to field a competitive team this season.
No, I think the team will be competitive. I don't think this team is better than the Buffalo Bills. I don't think this team wins the East. I don't think this team competes for an AFC championship, which is what it's become about in New England. Now, here's the other thing I say about these free agency pieces when I mention that these are normally like later free agency signings. Bill Belichick pinpointed each of these players. These were the guys he wanted. These were the guys he felt like he could build his roster with. He wasn't necessarily looking to make the splash play in free agency, but the right play for where his team is in order to build this roster up. So in that sense, it says to me, Bill Belichick has a plan. I just don't think that plan makes them a team that could win the AFC.
Better start drafting.
Well, I think it's very important to remember that Bill Belichick, one could easily argue, and this question really comes down to what you believe, Ryan. If Tom Brady was not the reigning defending Super Bowl champion, would this level of priority have been placed on the New England Patriots off of last year? I don't think that based off of last year, they do. Even though they recognize they had to improve certain things, I think that Tom Brady being a reigning defending Super Bowl champion certainly helps to incentivize you to do that.
Stephen A., Bill Belichick doesn't like to lose, bro. Yeah.
I ain't saying he like to lose, but damn, the guy leaves you and wins a championship 1 year after you question him.
One thing, hey, RC, let me ask
Damn, why you acting like you don't know what I'm talking about,
Ryan?
Ryan?
Chip on your shoulder.
Let me ask you this, RC. To Stephen A's point, I'm curious about your thought about this. Had that not been the case, Brady not won the Super Bowl, let's say the Patriots get a little not unlucky and they win 9 games instead of 7 or at least 8 because it came down to a couple plays. You mentioned it. Usually Belichick waits for the market to cool off. Like he signed a couple guys here like Bourne or Aguilar where you're like, maybe you paid a little bit much for those guys compared to normally you wait for those, see who's left and grab that guy at a deal. Do you think he would have approached free agency differently in terms of the timing?
You know what? I don't. I think he realized what his roster was. He realized the team that he had built. And if you win 9 games in New England, it's still not 12 games. It's still not 13 games. It's still not what Bill Belichick is accustomed to. So he realized the need to do something different. And listen, Stephen A., what you're trying to think is like Bill Belichick lost his girlfriend went out and upgraded, so he went and got a lot of plastic surgery. That's not what this is. It's that Bill Belichick wants to be great for himself.
That's a horrible analogy. That's a horrible. First of all, if you're trying to one up her, you go out and you get somebody just as fly, and you're right, or just as fly as her, if not flyer. That's what you do. You don't go out and get plastic surgery. You go out and you get a better partner. That's what you do. That's number one. So that's a horrible analogy. And number two, again, I'm not trying to. Yeah, you actually can. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is not just that. It's also about the fact that, again, you push the dude out the door, essentially. Everyone knows that. So if you push him out the door, what you push him out the door for? You got to show why. And that prioritizes the situation. It's not like Tom Brady just left. No, you pushed him out the door.
Well, who did he get that's flyers, Stephen A? That's the point. The point is he did not go out and make a splash. He didn't trade for Deshaun Watson or
because he doesn't feel he needs to in order to win. Wilson. Because he doesn't feel he needs to in order to win.
Dudes like
Kenny
Bourne or
he's building out the roster.
They're good players, but they're not super marquee.
People on the earth.
Okay. All right, Joe.
What happened to a real soul connection and true love, and that being the focus. Okay. Let's talk about famous retirement. Stephen A. just wants loyalty. Jameis Winston and the Saints reached agreement on a one-year deal worth up to $12 million. A league source told Adam Schefter. You want it all. I know. Winston will now compete with Taysom Hill for the starting job, which could get complicated. Max, did the Saints Super Bowl hopes retire when Drew Brees did? Because a lot of people had picked them to win the Super Bowl this past season.
No, and I think it was an illusion. Brees wasn't good enough anymore to win the Super Bowl, pretty obviously. In fact, it came down to a tie game against the Bucs, who they beaten twice when it didn't matter as much. And Brees outplayed Brady when it didn't matter as much. And then with evenly matched teams, tie game in the fourth quarter, there it was. Who's going to make the plays to win the game? Because you knew Brady wasn't going to screw up at the very least. Brees couldn't get it done. Just couldn't get it done. So, and that's been the case in the playoffs the last bunch of years for Brees. Not because he's not great, because he was older and it's a long season. He's not a big guy and he's getting beaten up. He got all those fractured ribs and punctured lung this season. It's too much for him. So it was an illusion that Brees was the quarterback to get you there in the first place, recently, especially this year. But it's a stacked team. And you know what I saw from Taysom Hill? I saw some promise. Thought he's pretty good. Ball security, a bit of an issue, right? And he's not, it's not like Steve Young coming in for Joe Montana once upon a time. But Taysom Hill, who was considered a gadget player for a long time, which I always thought was unfair to him, is a good player and may turn out to be a good quarterback. And besides that, you don't know what else is out there for this team. Quarterback movement now is not what it used to be. A lot of guys jump teams. If Sean Payton feels that the guys he has on the roster aren't good enough, there will be quarterbacks available. I do not think, given the Saints roster, this window is closed.
Please. The damn roster, the damn window wasn't open when they had Drew Brees. They lost, okay? So why wouldn't it be closed now? Am I supposed to believe that Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston is going to guide them to a Super Bowl? I mean, what's wrong with you? No. I mean, of course they retired with Drew Brees. For the foreseeable future.
That was 5 years ago.
Excuse me. I'm just saying, listen, the Saints got a decent squad. They'll be competitive. I understand that. I see Ryan covering his face. He's down there in Louisiana. We understand that he's emotionally invested to some degree, okay? But in the end, what it comes down to is that the Saints have a good squad, but you lost a Hall of Fame quarterback. You don't lose a Hall of Fame quarterback and you continue on as usual. No, you're going to take a step back. I believe that's what the case will be. Taysom Hill was obviously very productive without Drew Brees there. I think when you get to watch film on him and you challenge him a little bit, I don't think he's going to be a scrub by any stretch of the imagination.
Sean Payton believes in him.
I don't give a damn. Are you asking me?
Sean Payton knows something.
I respect the hell out of Sean Payton. Sean Payton ain't the co-host of First Take. I am. I don't give a damn what Sean Payton. I'm telling you what I feel. I don't believe that the New Orleans Saints are going to be the same team without Drew Brees. And don't get me started on no Jameis Winston. I'm happy he got a contract. Happy he got some money because I don't want the brother unemployed. And I think that he's got a future in the NFL at some point. But is he that dude? Is Taysom Hill that dude? No. Let's stop that. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, guys. Just put it out there. Taysom Hill ain't the dude nowhere. Taysom Hill ain't the quarterback. If Taysom Hill is the quarterback of this team, they may be a 500 team. The fact that Matt said he saw some promise in Taysom Hill, he played good against the Atlanta Falcons twice. He was awful against the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos started a practice squad. The Denver Broncos started a practice squad. He inexperienced, but he dang near my age, Max.
This is not right, but he's inexperienced at the position.
And you guys are talking about a team taking a step back from a Hall of Fame quarterback. The first thing is this. When Drew Brees is leaving the New Orleans Saints, he's no longer a Hall of Fame level quarterback. He's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. You're not losing a Hall of Fame level quarterback. You're losing a quarterback who actually cost you a Super Bowl opportunity, right? And so if this offense can be more explosive with Jameis Winston. Now, your problem is how far they were over the cap and all the other pieces that they're going to have to lose and now replace in order to have a good roster around Jameis Winston if Sean Payton decides that that's the quarterback. This window was closed actually before we knew it because we watched the New Orleans Saints play regular season after regular season, and that's why we thought the window was open. We said, if this team can play in the playoffs, that team can win the Super Bowl. But that team never made it to the playoffs because that regular season quarterback never got to the playoffs. That regular season quarterback got outplayed by Kirk Cousins. That regular season quarterback got outplayed by Tom Brady. And so is the window closed? Can they win it this year? Probably not. But what I'm saying is it wasn't open anyway. And if we continue to have this discussion about Taysom Hill being a starting quarterback, I'm going to ram my head into this iPad.
Well, you better put on a helmet.
Well.
He is not.
Ryan Clark.
Put on a helmet.
Ryan Clark,
Get him,
I've said this to
Ryan.
you on several occasions
Tell
in the
him,
past.
Ryan.
I'll say it again.
I got one behind me.
Ryan Clark, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just sitting. Why you got to go on the long soliloquy? There's absolutely nothing wrong with just saying Stephen A. was right.
Because I'm on
you
first
agree
take
with me.
with two
Because you
dudes
agree
that
with
do
me.
it.
You agree with me. I'm saying you could at least said that. You could at least said, Max, I agree with Stephen A. But because you get up early in the morning and you used to dropping dimes on the Get Up crew and others, you know what, giving your little soliloquies and breaking stuff down with the level of expertise that you religiously
gotta
provide,
have my
you
time.
get caught up in trying to give us these phrases and all of this other stuff.
you put
should
a
have
sock in it.
You should have started off by saying Stephen A's right, Max. Stephen A's right.
First of all,
what else is new?
First
That's
of
all
all,
you had to say.
Stephen A,
Ryan.
you were
That's all you
right.
had to say.
Stephen A.
You
was
were
right.
right this
Stephen A. was right
This
about
time.
Julius Randle traveling earlier.
Yeah,
I gave it up when you're right.
It took you about an hour.
No,
it took you about an
That's
hour.
not true. I gave it up on the spot.
We didn't hear you. We didn't hear
definitely
you. We didn't hear you. We whispered
Well,
it. You whispered it.
take
You whispered
your
it.
fingers out of your
You
ears.
said it might
You
be
whispered
a
it right here.
travel.
You whispered
You
it.
said
Here's the
it might
point
be.
about Drew
It was
Brees.
definitely a travel.
And Ryan, you made the point.
A football player.
Drew Brees is not as hard to replace in terms of postseason success as people think. First of all, the Saints are 8-0 the last